This is partners in the process, 'cause we're built better together.
Today we have Jeff Becker, owner of Man Up Clinics, Man Up Woman Up. We've branded now to include women in the St. Louis and surrounding areas. How many clinics are you up to now?
We're up to 6 clinics now.
6 clinics in the St. Louis metropolitan area?
Yes,
Okay.
all in St. Louis right now.
Okay. And we're going to delve into a little bit on weight loss and some TRT therapy and the benefits and misconceptions that are out there right now. We're going to set some things straight. We're going to get into some pretty interesting topics. So I want to start off by you explaining a little bit of your background, where you come from, so people understand how you got into hormones and weight loss and like kind of what your credentials are.
Yeah, so I started out as a chiropractor 26 years ago. Dove into functional medicine, was the first kind of attempt in going to, with my background, what we could do for weight loss. And we were very successful at it, even adapting into some of the hormones, but we were limited. You know, when you can't get access to medications, it does create limitations for what you can or can't do. So I dove into working actually into stem cell procedures as well, and then wanted to dive even personally into myself for hormones and some of the things I was seeing as I was aging that I wasn't really happy with.
Yeah.
And so that kind of got me into that network, and was able to basically hire on the medical staff in order to be able to do this on a medical level, so that we could be the best that we could be. Again, taking this and tailoring this to an individual person, on all levels, whether it be supplemental, but also the medication component of it, so we can maximize those benefits for patients.
I got you. So would you say that you have an emphasis very specifically in one part of the industry now? I mean, the transition from being a chiropractor into this was just organic from the fact that you were following this path for yourself.
Yeah, it's really a byproduct of, you know, we always want to look at patient health. We've always been oriented towards that. Again, supplementation can be fantastic, and it can be just as beneficial as medications. In fact, a lot of medications are derived from natural supplements, right? But there were still those limitations, particularly when you're talking about hormones, what you can actually do. It's just so much more versatile. But this allows us to come from a natural approach as well. It also comes from a conservative approach. So when we work with hormones, a lot of clinics are, you know, hormones are really about reducing waves, not creating waves. And a lot of clinics are using methods that are creating tidal waves. And then they're giving them, for example, we have discussed pellets. Pellets often are given to a patient. Then they're given 4 to 5 other medications, knowing good and well what they're doing to their hormones, kind of like creating a tidal wave and then putting block walls in to stop the after effects. Does that make a lot of sense to anybody that would be a great?
But the benefits are, this is what they push, is the bioidentical,
Right.
and that you only have to do it once every 4 months. And because
Right.
people don't like being stuck by needles, that's just a fact. But if you want to keep a nice baseline, you really have to have supplementation on a regular basis.
Yeah, so think about that also. So because it's every 3 to 4 months, and anybody that's ever been on hormone therapy knows that that's a kind of a drop-off, and that's not really a fun drop-off. So it creates, again, cycles, ups and downs, waves that you're now having to deal with, and so is your spouse. And this is what we hear often. It's not worth the convenience for that effect. And as far as bioidentical, there are other means of bioidentical that have nothing to do with those pellets that can be regulated on a weekly basis. So we choose to use a method that allows us to make changes even immediately. So we can change it on a weekly basis if we need to. Again, hormones are about how do you feel, right? So we use labs to give us a guideline, to give us a starting point. But ultimately, the patient is who we need to listen to. And often what we find in our clinic is that patients are thrown off that somebody's actually going to listen to them and make adaptations to their care based on what they say. They're dumbfounded because they're not even used to that.
Yeah.
The other thing that we do, I feel better than anybody, is we actually pull the labs out. We look at the labs with the patients. We actually go over the labs. We explain to them why we're making changes. See, often when you go to providers, they either don't show you the labs or they just tell you it's fine. Now, you know as well as I do, the number of fine, or the range, can be enormous. For example, vitamin D. Range is 50 to 100, right? Some labs is actually 30 to 100. So if you're 51 at your doctor's office, then you're okay, you're on the green, but you're a D- on your report card.
Correct.
And you know how many functions vitamin D has? There's pretty much nobody on the face of the earth that doesn't need to supplement vitamin D, and we're not getting enough of it. And we're not even getting enough to get up to a range that's actually beneficial for our bodies. And it starts with that process.
And that brings a word up that we really tailor a lot of things to, and that's optimization.
Correct.
You know what I mean? People, there's okay, there's really good, and there's optimal, you know?
Yeah. Nobody comes to the United States for medicine or for health, right? Because our system is broken. We don't do health, we do emergency care, unfortunately, in our community, right? So what we do differently is we say, no, we're going to start from the place of health. We're going to get your body running. You wouldn't put a supercharger on a broke motor, right? So we want to build the motor up, a race motor. Now we're going to put that supercharger on there, and now we're going to see the effects. And this is why we get 3 to 4 times the weight loss on some of our products like tirzepatide or semaglutide versus just injecting an injector that you get. And we also use a smaller dose than recommended by the manufacturers. So there's no risks involved with that like there are with some of the injectors they've been having problems with, like semaglutide, with causing some other conditions.
Yeah.
And so again, a conservative approach. We've got this dialed in, and we're able to keep it healthy. And also our patients keep the weight off. They don't have to stay on this and continue to stay on that product for years to come, which is
just to keep it off.
Just to keep that weight off.
Do you want to give us a little bit of an explanation between the differences between semaglutide and tirzepatide and why you would really prefer tirzepatide over semaglutide?
So semaglutide is kind of like an 8-track cassette. It's really the old style. It's a single phase medication. It's really rarely really truly beneficial, particularly when you're running a weight loss clinic where people are actually expecting to lose weight. Often when it's given to them by their primary care, they're just taking it because their doctor says, and they'll drop a little bit of weight. The numbers that typically come from that, on top of the side effects, are for a clinic that runs medical weight loss are horrific. So giving an example, having a patient on weight loss that loses 8 pounds in 3 months, and they've paid any significant amount of money, that's not a good number.
Yeah.
On top of it, imagine being sick the whole time, feeling nauseous, feeling like your food is up to your neck the whole time, and losing 8 pounds. Very frustrating.
And I know
as
there's
well,
a lot of
right?
people listening to this that have done semaglutide. They're going to understand exactly what you're saying.
Ozempic and
Yes.
semaglutide, the other
Yes.
terms for this medication that has been touted by all these clinics, newest medication. If these clinics are saying it's new, they don't have a clue. And you should be concerned that they're saying these medications are new. Semaglutide has been around for a long time, and so or Ozempic. So there's a lot of false information being given out there. And again, it's not the great. Tirzepatide, you can get 3 times the results in the same amount of time, often, and even better. So, and the side effects of the nauseousness, having to take other medications for anti-nausea medication is not required. So those side effects are not often found with the tirzepatide. The dosing is also significantly lower than semaglutide. So again, side effects are not being found with the tirzepatide, which is also known as Mounjaro. And so that's some of the benefits I see. And again, with our programs, we intermix other weight loss medications in order to maximize that. But we also start with the base we talked about of getting the nutrition right, getting their supplements right. And we do that based on lab work. We don't just invent it. You know, we're taking labs on a regular basis, every 2 months.
Yeah.
And we're not just doing that to run labs. We're running labs to see, hey, have we hit the points that we need to hit? Are we getting you to a healthy component that you need to be in order to really maximize your ability for your body to shed the weight that we need to?
And to that point, something I would like people to understand is in your clinics, you have a partnership with a lab company. They provide the lab, they provide the technicians and all the equipment, we provide the space. We don't profit necessarily off of those labs. That is a convenience for our customers so that they can get these labs so we can monitor their progression, because it's very, very important. I think by law, is it once every 6 months or something that they say that you really should twice a year?
It's not really even by law, right? But there's some things that you set a standard of care. Standard of care would be minimum of 6 months. Some clinics are running it once every year.
Yes, I've seen that.
And people talk about hormones being dangerous. In fact, I had an email contact this week that said, hey, I'm looking at potentially coming in to do testosterone therapy, TRT therapy. However, I've read that there's some dangerous things about it. And my response to them, there's absolutely zero danger involved when the labs are run on a regular basis in order to determine that all courses of action are safe for that patient. And there's never going to be that. So we go beyond measure when it comes to that, because again, we're not just saying, okay, we want to make sure it's not just dangerous. we're using our labs to create markers to show the involvement and say, hey, look, how do you feel? Look where your vitamin D is. Look what your B12 is at. Look where your folate is at, what you need in order to convert B12 in energy. People don't realize that if you can drink a 5-hour energy and you don't get any energy from it, you probably don't have any folate in your system, which is really easy to change. So these are things that are very easy to deal with when you have lab work that tells you what's going on. And again, supplementating that based on what the labs say.
And there's a lot of companies out there that I just know are not doing that. I mean, the majority
100%.
of them are not. They're not treating patients in all those parameters. They say, here's some TRT, or here's your weight loss supplement. This is how you take it. Or they come in and get the injection. How you feeling today? Get on the scale. You're a number and you're back out the door. People do get success from it. But I find that, and the people that we've talked to, there's far more success stories that are still unhappy than ones that are like, I'm going to rep your brand and tell everybody about you. And like you've created, we'll call it a culture. I mean, it really is. You've created a culture around what you're doing around this industry, takes the stigma away from steroid use, and it brings to the forefront about how healthy this can be, not only for your physical health, but for your mental health and all the things that come along with that in your relationships, in your work, in your day-to-day confidence, everything. Everybody wants to lose weight to get in a swimsuit or look good for summer, but people don't understand how people take you when you look a certain type of way, or how you're a billboard, you're a walking billboard. And especially when you're in business, if you aren't taking care of yourself, how do you expect any of your clients to think you're going to take care of them?
Right.
It's become like a whole lifestyle change overall.
100%.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, I can't be in there. It'd be like going to a trainer that weighs 300 pounds. You're not going to really have the full respect of that provider given that fact, right? So there's some complications along with that. So, you got to make sure that you look apart, that you're representing, that my clients, my patients will see me in the gym. And I even invite them, hey, if you're at the gym, see me, come say hi.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I love it. I love to hear from our patients and how they're doing. Some of the biggest things we take pride in, and I'm sure you guys have also experienced this, is, this hormones, whether it be male or female. There's so many stigmatisms about, it's just about getting big. It's about being, ripped out. It's about this. It's about that. But some of the cases that we take the most pride in are a gentleman that I didn't see him for his initial consultation. It was his first follow-up. So this is 2 months into care. And I asked him, how he was doing. And he started to tear up. And inside I was thinking, oh, wait a minute. This guy, his estrogen might be high. Because when you're on testosterone, you raise it. You're going to raise some estrogen. Yeah. Estrogen might make you a little more sensitive.
Just something we do keep in check. So.
Yes. So I thought, wow, his estrogen might kind of be off balance there. So, but the story was that he was suicidal. He said, I was straight up suicidal. He goes, this is something I read online. He goes, I came in. He said, I was taking Xanax to sleep at night. He said, I was taking Adderall. And he said, I was on a severe high level of antidepressants. He said, took me an hour and a half to get out of bed to even exist. And he says, everything out of my body just to get up and move forward. Yeah. And he said, Doc, I've gotten off all my medication. Now, we would not recommend that, by the way. Got off all my medication. He says, I get up. It takes me a couple minutes to get out of bed. He goes, I look forward to the day. He goes, this has been life-changing for me, life-changing for me. Yeah. And those are the cases that people don't understand what hormones are about. Right. Saving marriages, about saving lives. We had another military guy, and I call it kind of Eeyore to Tigger. Yes. Where he was super quiet, wouldn't look anybody in the eyes, PTSD conditions going on, and we treat a lot of that with hormones. And so he was suffering, just former military, just a lot of issues. And 2 months into it, ran into him at the gym. He was talking my ear off. Came into the clinic next time I saw him, talking to anybody that walked in that door. You talked about salesmen. Yes. We have salesmen all over the place because of just referrals. That, right? Because they see that change. Mm-hmm. And this is what's so powerful about what we do is we're able to be involved in it. We're able to get people off of antidepressants. We're able to get people off of psych medications that they don't need to be on, or anxiety medications that are just simply hormone imbalance.
Because the medical industry as a whole wants to treat the symptoms, they don't want to fix the problem. There's more money in treating the symptoms than there is fixing the problem.
Well, I think not to put down to providers either, because there's a system that's just been put in play. Right. They also don't understand hormones, and they often, which is good. I don't think they should dive into hormones if they don't understand it. Often, in fact, I would say never have we seen somebody from being treated hormonally through primary care or even most urologists are dosed properly, given the fact that testosterone has a 7-day half-life, and almost everybody that's ever come from anybody outside of a center like what we do is doing every 14 or 28 days, which creates more cycles, which we talked about. We create waves, which you don't want to do. So it makes them feel good for 3 to 4 days, and then they get to crash for the next week and a half. So it's not a fun thing to do. And understanding that is crucial to having the kind of results that we get on a daily basis. And you can attest, being in the clinic is awesome. I don't work. It is fun. We get people coming in, sharing stories. We get people coming in, bringing their family members in and saying, you know, we need you to help her. We need you to help him. You know, it's game changer. People that are losing weight. I literally tell people it's almost like having a magic wand right now for weight loss. What weight do you want to be at? And I'm telling you, tell me it, and I will get you there. We can 100% get you to whatever we are. Given the fact that we took 194 pounds off of a guy in 12 months with hormones and weight loss. 194 pounds. Wow. I think we can handle anything under that.
And see, I think that's an incredible aspect to this, because we've even developed spreadsheets to track that progress where they can see it. So when they come in for their weekly accountability check-ins, which we're very big on, because a lot of people want their hand held through this and they want a cheerleader, and that's what we're there for. We love doing that. We love taking that journey. I want to see those numbers go down. And when they don't go down, we have conversations with you as to what we changed this week and why they didn't go down. There's always a reason behind it. But we've developed these sheets to where, as it tracks in these little cubicles, I can lay that sheet down and I can run right down and go, look at this, 5 pounds, 8 pounds, 12 pounds, 13 pounds, you know, as the weeks go on, and they just get more and more amped up. And something that we're tracking now that we're noticing is, as the weeks go on, there's more weight taken off, because as they see the small progress, they're like, well, if I did 5 pounds this week, let's see if I can do 6 pounds next week. And then it just goes bigger and bigger. So, I mean, we have people that have been on programs for 5 weeks and they're down, you know, 22 pounds plus. And that's a safe amount of weight. We're going to talk about a safe amount of weight to lose, because people want to, nobody wants delayed gratification. We live in a society where everybody wants instant gratification. And yes, can you take weight off very fast? Yes, but from a health standpoint, it's not a good idea to take off more than, what would you recommend a week? Really?
So that's an individual person situation, because it depends if they got to lose 150 pounds or if they need to lose 20 pounds, right? So that's very variable based on what they have going on. Really, when we take them in, as you know, as patients, we do some weight testing, we do fat, body fat, we do a lot of compositional things. So that really has to do with their composition as to what we're wanting to hit or what marks we're wanting to hit, and also food intake that we're going to want them to hit as well. So it does vary quite a bit, because there are some people that can lose 30 pounds in a month and be okay.
If they're 100 pounds overweight.
If they're significantly overweight. Somebody that has 30 pounds, we don't want them to lose 30 pounds in a month's period of time. It's too quick for them to go through that process. And often when people lose a larger amount in a lot of other programs, they're losing water weight. In this program, we're not pulling water weight out. So people need to understand, this is like all my clothes fits differently. Like
it's composition changes.
I'm going shopping for clothes in 60 days every time. It is a complete, and looking at their face. I always tell every patient to minimum take a picture of yourself from side and from front every 30 days. And I want them to see their facial changes that occur with this in the neck and just the areas where, you know, no matter how much you exercise, it never comes off. But we're able to get rid of that.
When men, and specifically in men, I tell them that you're going to have some composition changes. You build muscle, especially the guys that are wanting to get back in the gym, then they do start hitting the gym. I said, take pictures. The scale will lie to you. Your pictures will not lie. And so we had one guy in particular. He's one of our first cases, and he's been spectacular. Came in like Eeyore, very quiet. Don't know what's wrong with me. I'm very snappy. I'm struggling with my relationship and with my wife. I'm struggling at work. I'm tired all the time, you know, all the stuff. We test him. Guy's like 180. Okay, so to put that in perspective, medically, I want to say anything under 200 or 300, the medical community would consider low. We consider that tanked. I mean, you're tanked, because optimal's like 700 to 1100. So, this guy, I'm like, this is an issue, bunch of vitamin deficiencies, whole 9 yards. So we get the guy on therapy, and about 3 weeks in, he comes in and he's still kind of sick. And so he's like, I've just got a bug this week. I don't know what's wrong, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but I'm feeling pulled down by this bug. You would think someone strapped a turbo to his ass week 4. He come in, I seen him at the gym actually. He come up, he's like, I don't know what's wrong. It feel like somebody wound me up and let me go. He's like, I'm hitting the gym. And now he's many of weeks in. and he went up like 5 pounds when we were doing his composition. And he's like, man, I got so mad. I got on the scale and I went up 5 pounds, but he's like, I'm taking pictures. And so I started showing pictures, and you guys could point out my shoulders and my neck and and he goes, but my pants, I went down 2 inches in my waist. And I'm like, it's composition change, dude. Do you know how hard it is to put on 5 pounds of muscle and then lose that fat? It's very difficult. I said, but I see you in the gym every day putting that work in, because I'm in there too. Yeah. I said, so congratulations to you. He's been one of our biggest cheerleaders. I mean, he's just floats around the gym talking to everybody, and then people come over and talk, and it's great. Like you said, it's creating this buzz and this giant network of people who just want to make themselves better, and people are talking about it. They're bringing it out in the open. It's not something that people used to do this in the closet, because there's a huge stigma about it. Yeah, and now that we're pulling people out of that and letting them know all the health benefits to actually making sure it's optimal, not abusing it, and not doing it even from a medical standpoint. We've had some people come in, they're like, well, my doctor was giving it to me every 10 days. And I still feel like crap. And we test them, they're super low. I'm like, because like you said, the half-life. Yeah. I mean, it's not really a therapeutic dose. Everything.
And dosing. We use certain things that tell us even how to dose that somebody may need to inject twice a week. You know? And so we use those to determine not just once a week, but twice a week for their body to optimize off that. Yeah. You brought up a range, and really the range for testosterone is 1,250 to 250. The problem with that range is it has nothing to do with age. So there's no criteria about, hey, what's a bad number, given on the medical side of things, other than if you drop below 250, now we got a problem. Keep in mind that under 450 testosterone total, that you now start developing depression, you start developing anxiety. Yeah. Now, the other thing that they don't test, which is even more crucial, is free testosterone, right? So we had a gentleman come in, he was 35 years old. His total testosterone was 895. That's fantastic for 35 years old. That's actually a good number, right? But his free testosterone was under 10. So that means the percentage of what he was using at total was minimal. So
what they call bioavailable for your body to utilize. All we had to do is open
up the free testosterone so that he could use his total that he had in his body. So we gave him something to do that. And we talk about also taking this, when we're working with hormones and having potentially a permanent damaging effect on somebody, we talk about what do we do to protect somebody's function, because a lot of guys ask, hey, what's going to go on? The big joke about, hey, my balls are going to shrivel up to the size of a peanut, and why does that occur? And other centers that have told them, oh, it's okay if you're not going to have kids to not have that. Well, I just talked about HCG actually elevates free testosterone, which is going to make all of your total available. So what would we not want everything that we are putting in the body to be favorably and effectively work better? So people are like, oh, I want to lean out quite a bit. Okay, let's increase your HCG, and we're going to protect function. People don't realize, and we get people from other clinics all the time that come in and they have complaints, and they're soft during sex, libido's all over the place, they don't have any feelings, so they can't finish because of loss of feeling. And this is all from stopping natural production, which if you're on only testosterone and you're on therapy, you're doing. And could become permanent. And you're causing other issues with the pituitary gland that you're causing potentially permanent effects on. Yeah. As a company, we won't do that. We don't care if you're 95 years old or you're 25 years old. You come into the clinic, we're going to have you on HCG. A lot of clinics either don't have the availability or don't want to spend the expense of that. We don't cut corners for patient care. We're taking this very seriously, and we want to make sure we're not causing any permanent changes on a negative side effect for our patients. And I think that's crucial.
And that's the best option that's FDA approved for men as well.
Correct. Yeah, right? It is a gold standard of care. There are other clinics that are using other medications, like Clomid and clomiphene at some points as well. But standard of care, gonadotropin is another one. Gonadotropin is another one. But standard of care is HCG, is the standard of care, gold standard of care for that particular reason.
I got you. What have you seen in some of these women that are coming in? Some of the stories that you've seen or people you've talked to. I mean, I know there was one in particular situation where we had sat down and did a consultation with some people, and they had some very big issues going on in their life, and so that's the stories, sharing that with some of those spouses.
Right. So we like to go in and talk to them too, and kind of see where they're at and how they're feeling and what some benefits are that they would like to see in their lives and stuff like that with themselves, with their relationships and stuff like that. So, I mean, we've had a variety of women that come in and, they want to go work out more, or they want to be fit, or they want to just feel better overall. And so they've come in, and I mean, one thing that is really great at these different places too is the nurse practitioners. we've had some incredible nurse practitioners come in and work with the patients and really get down to knowing them and, knowing what they want to see,
understanding
in the
them on an
future.
individual
Yeah.
basis. Yeah, like taking them into account
Right.
more than just the standard of treatment.
Right.
Treating everybody like their own individual case, like you mentioned earlier. It depends how much weight. Everybody is their own custom case.
What people don't understand too is like we have all these different gyms and all these facilities and all around us, Orange Theories and all these different things, and so we had a personal friend of ours, and she was a trainer for Club Fitness, and she was doing classes 5 days a week. People don't understand once you get over age 35 that even activities, particularly cardio related, can actually add stress or elevate cortisol levels. So they hear you got somebody, this personal friend of ours, that couldn't get the weight off and was training 5 days a week, doing all the right things, eating very well, all these things were going on. And when we corrected her hormones and we got her on the right program, weight loss, we met her 35-pound goal that she hadn't been able to get off in the last 2 decades. And so, funny enough, now all of her neighbors have now come in as patients seeing that, because here she's doing all the right things, but she's still not losing weight. So
Right.
people need to understand that sometimes being in the gym, and we try to educate our patients on what's really the best for their age and what they may need to be doing and not doing. Because everybody thinks that cardio is the way to get thin,
Yes.
and it absolutely is not. It is absolutely a way to trap body fat in your body at certain levels, depending on what's going on. And those are some of the things that we look at, and we get those corrected. We give the body permission again to actually lose weight, like you used to do when you were 25 years old, because we correct the hormonal situation, we correct the insulin situation, we correct the water resistance situation, which is estrogen based as well, and a couple other things that cause that. And we use other products to reduce inflammation. Inflammation in the body is the enemy of being able to lose fat.
Right.
The body uses the liver, lymph, and lungs in order to get rid of fat. So this is why we talked about patients not drinking alcohol. It's not about the calories, guys. It's about the function that it has on the liver,
it
the
converts
stress
into your
that
body.
it puts into the liver, and it creates a situation where the body cannot function at 100%. That doesn't mean you can't have an occasional drink.
Right.
But if your ultimate goal is to get there, then we want to put you in an optimal situation in order to get that to happen for you, because that's what you're hiring us to do, is to be your coach, to teach you, to show you the best ways and manners. And this is why we're able to get the weight off that people have been everywhere else and not gotten weight off. Every fad diet, Atkins, all these different things that are carnivores, all these things that are being gone around. And again, are short term typically. They're going to change it right up as soon as they get off of it. Boom, the weight's going to come right back to them. My buddy's wife, she's down 78 pounds. We haven't seen her in 6 months. She still is dead on. She has not gained an ounce back. And that's the gentleman I spoke about earlier, 194 pounds, has not gained an ounce back because of our education. That's a big part that we do as well, is educating our patients how we're going to maintain that weight, that we're not going to use these semaglutide or the tirzepatide as that blanket. Like, I'm going to hold on to this so I can keep the weight off.
Every time it starts to come
We
up
don't
because
wanna
I'm
do
not
that.
following that lifestyle change, I'll just take some more of this and knock it back off. That is probably the biggest thing that we hear from people is the education.
Yeah.
They literally will straight tell you, nobody explained this to me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of transferring people that have been at multiple other clinics.
Absolutely.
Transferred from that one to that one. Now they transferred. It could have been convenience, or it could have just been that they weren't happy there either. When we come in and, like she said, the providers sit down and educate them, and then we walk through this whole process with them from the whole time they're on it. Even our TRT patients, that's really just a monthly thing, but I'm tracking them to how they're feeling.
Yeah,
How, what's your goals? And everything's tailored around people's goals. Do you want to get back in the gym? Do you just want to feel alive again? We've got some people that are runners. We got a lot of military. We got a lot of first responders. These people have got very demanding jobs, and they just don't have it in them anymore to do it. They're not ones that really want to lift or get real big, but they want to have the ability to want to do that. And like you said earlier, I want to get into some misconceptions. So one of the misconceptions, especially with weight loss, is if I take a product that makes me not hungry, if I don't eat, I will lose a lot of weight. Right. I want you to debunk that one right now, because I've had this conversation so many times with people about how feeding your body the proper fuel allows it to understand that it's taken care of, and this is storage for the apocalypse. When the body knows it's not an apocalypse, it unpacks its shit. It says, get rid of it.
Yeah.
So explain that.
So
that's
the
so
big part of
important.
that, again, we talked about just retraining and not eating right. And so people have to understand, when you are physically training, you also have to feed your body. If you don't feed your body, it creates a situation where the body says, okay, we're going to go ahead and have to store this. It also elevates cortisol level. We talked about cortisol earlier. Cortisol is the enemy. It is the enemy of losing any kind of fat. And so what it'll do is it will store those fats, the brown fats you will never get rid of. I don't care how much running, how many things you do. So we have to be able to give the body permission to release that fat. We have to drop that cortisol level, and we have to tell it, okay, hey, it's okay. We don't need that. So just reducing calorie intake won't get it done. And I know a lot of people have tried this before. I've even heard doctors say that, because one of the plans that we have done in the past is called HCG diet, and it's a low calorie, 500 calorie intake. And doctor, well, if you ate 500 calories, anybody could lose weight. Try it. First off, I guarantee you won't be able to do it without the HCG. Number two, you won't lose weight because your body will go into shutdown mode, and it will not. HCG tells the body to release fat as a fuel source. So you're not just taking in 500 calories when you're on that. Your body is releasing the fat as your fuel. You're metabolizing 2,000, 2,500 calories a day of your own body fat. That's
Right.
why it works, okay?
Right.
So we have to do the same thing, whatever plan that we choose for that patient based on their history and everything. We base it based on what we're going to see the most successful in the given time that we want. And then we tailor also what they're doing exercise-wise or any other activity-wise or even no activity. There are some people that can't be active. That's why they're there. And they still have to be able to take that weight off without activity. So we're able to do that for them on a very easy level. And then what you'll find is then they become active because now they can get active. You know?
And they feel like it, and they can. Yeah, they feel that drive again to want to do that.
Yeah. It's a huge component. I love seeing that when people start seeing those changes and they just get super excited and they just start rolling downhill. And and that's the fun part when you see them and lifestyle changes. And even on a personal level, we've seen that how they feel better when you start to eat better. And then you do a cheat meal and you're like, oh man, I felt horrible. I had a headache afterwards. I was just tired all day long. People understand that we're trained to eat for pleasure, right?
Yeah.
We've lost the art of, like, back in the day, you ate what you could get a hold of, right? And this is where we talked about compositional changes, is that when we used to hunt, yes, you could get away with that because we didn't eat as much. Your body still needed that. But what happens is stresses kind of act like that to us and increase the adrenals and the cortisol. And so it's storing as if we're out running around hunting, even though we're not hunting.
Right.
And so that's a big part of that process that we have to, again, revert the body, correct it, which is what we use our different processes for in order to get the end effect, which is to get the body to start shedding weight. And again, doing that with not just limited calorie. In fact, as you know, most of our weight loss plans, we have strict food intake. You have to have a certain amount of food intake in order to do that. And it's way more than most people eat on their own when they're trying to lose weight.
It's just the proper fuels, and that's the thing. You got to, because one of the things that I talk to people about is how when the quality of food, not just the calories, but the quality of food that they're taking in, it takes 4 minutes to liquefy lean muscle. So these guys that are doing cardio and they're fasting, and I'm like, you could go work and break down all your muscle, and then you're going to cannibalize it if you're not careful. You have to put your body in the environment that's conducive to achieve what you're wanting to achieve. Right. Otherwise, it's counterproductive. But we've got women that'll go in the gym and they'll hit the cardio for I just ran my ass off on the treadmill for an hour, hitting as hard as I can, and I can't lose weight. Yeah. And I'm eating 500 calories a day, and I'm like, you're just putting your body in emergency mode. It's locked down. You need to train it that it has everything it needs, and it's not cannibalizing itself. It'll go for muscle, it'll go for organs, it'll go for everything else other than fat, unless you give it what it needs to release the fat for fuel. So that's one giant misconception. Another misconception that I like to talk to people about is TRT in general. So like you said earlier, the Bible, so to speak, on the endocrine system, which is everything to do with TRT, is an endocrinologist, right, in science. I have not spoke with one yet or read an article that's been published in their journal that wasn't saying that it's necessary, that TRT is necessary. So when people start to talk about the things they read on the internet and stuff, I always talk to them about the sources. So I saved all that. I send it to some people that request, well, what are you talking about? Well, listen, look at this study. This is a study done by the American Journal of Urology. This is the Bible on the endocrine system for men, okay? So if they publish something and they say yes, and I tell them what to go down to and read all that whole article, and it talks about TRT and how it's important in men and why it's important, but one of the things that people don't understand is why are we seeing people in their 20s with systems that are crashed already? What are you eating? What are you putting on your skin? What are you subjecting yourself to? This crap that we have in this world.
What do you have in your hand 24/7?
What do you have in your hand 24/7?
Stress.
Yeah. So what is causing, I think that's one of those things that is nice to talk to people. What is causing people to, because you said it's not related to age.
Yeah.
But I would question why I've seen as young as 22 to 24-year-olds have really low testosterone.
Yeah.
Why?
We had a 16-year-old come in that his testosterone was under 200.
Why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We have a lot of estrogen dominant products that we can put in and introduce to our system, not by accident. Estrogen is going to bring down testosterone, stress levels, phones, all the pressures we put on our kids nowadays, everything. There's no downtime, especially with the phones. There is no downtime. You've got social, you got all this thing. So it's constant drive. So that creates, again, stresses on adrenals, even at a young age. And so that's where we see some of the problems at is just that constant bombardment. It's environmental. It is 100% environmental that is causing that effect. And so, like I said, even in a very young age. And, hormones in general, there's so many facades about this. We have, and I'm sure you've had this too, female come in. Oh, my doctor said you can't do anything with estrogen, it'll cause cancer. And I just laugh. And I say, think about this. How many women in their lifetime have been on birth control?
Many.
I would say upwards of 98%.
It's just standard,
so
right?
So what do you think birth control is? It's estrogen. Mm-hmm. So what the doctors are saying is you're risking your life to not get pregnant. But if you want to feel good, you can't do that. You're going to die of cancer. Not likely. Now, we talked about treating females in our clinics, and I would say over 90% of the time, we don't have to use estrogen in order to get the result we want anyway.
Correct.
Because of antagonistic responses using testosterone and using progesterone as well. And the big fear for women, I don't know about testosterone. Why would a female need testosterone?
I'm gonna grow a mustache. I'm gonna be.
I'm gonna grow.
Talk about
hair.
levels that are
I'm
necessary.
gonna have all these things. I'm gonna deep voice. Absolutely not. None of those things will occur because the range for a female is between 60 and 100. The range for, we already talked about a male, is 250 to 1250. We're never going to put a female into even close to a male's range
unless
of
you're
a
on
testosterone
pellets.
level. Yeah, unless you're on pellets, where we had a female come in that was tested at 22 on her testosterone level. A week later, we tested her after the pellet insertion. She was at 636.
636.
636.
Yeah, and so I've talked to people that have been on them, and they say what'll happen is they feel bad, they have the pellets put in, and after so long, they start to feel good. They start to feel real good. Then they start to feel really bad. Then they start to feel good again. Then they start to feel really bad, and then it feels like they're just tanked for about a month before they have to go back in for their next insertion.
The problem that creates as well, and again, not all providers do this with pellets. However, it's just not a controllable answer. And in fact, often they don't even test in the right timing. So if you're doing a pellet insertion and you're doing it, and it's going to last 3 or 4 months, and most of them testing is 6 months.
Yeah.
So what kind of valid information are you getting? You're midway through a second cycle if you're supposed to be making adjustments to patient's care.
Right.
Now, there are some that will do it sooner and make some adjustments. But we've seen this over and over again. We had a kid, 27 years old, so has not had kids, there's absolutely no reason that somebody that age should ever be put on pellets. His levels tested at 2,800, 2 weeks after the insertion of the pellet. But they're time released. No, they're not time released. And you can create almost a craving to the body too for that level of that wave that it creates. It's not good. And so other things crash. And it's just an up and down roller coaster. And I've rarely talked to anybody that has enjoyed that therapy. And the other thing, funny enough, this was brought to my attention by a female, not something I think about, but where they put this at is in your hip. And it's a pretty big device. It puts a pretty big hole in there, and it creates scar tissue. So as a female wearing a swimsuit, it's exposed when you're wearing a swimsuit, unless you have granny panties on.
Yeah.
So then it might cover it, but in a lot of cases, it's going to be exposed. So it's not attractive to have that there either.
Right.
On top of the other ramifications of what goes on with it. But if you're going to use that treatment, then you need to be, again, using labs in order to truly guide that and not just go by what the company says should be the standard of care.
Right. And it's something that we became very passionate in when I took the journey myself. I'm very open about that. Talk to people about how where I was at 300 pounds and I'm down to 220 now and way more fit than I ever was. And what that's changed in my life, enough so that as you franchise this model, we invested. I mean, I wanted to open one myself. We opened one all the way out in Washington, Missouri. So for us, I feel like this is a bigger journey for people than just getting fit and getting muscular. Yeah, many people we know take the full advantages, but we exercise and work out anyway. I tell people that for me, it was mental. Mm-hmm. The muscles are the byproduct of the fact that I just go to the gym and work out and take care of myself. It's just a byproduct. It's like when we talk about doing business, just in like this clinic, you're helping people because that's what's right to do. Right. You make money in business, correct, but that's the byproduct of me doing what's correct. Right. You know, I mean, I want to help people. Right. And so we do that in everything we do now. But the reason I love your business model so much compared to ones that I've either experienced otherwise or talked to other people that did was just the level of caring and passion that you have behind it. This right here is going to be game changing as it starts to grow. I mean, you've already you started, what year did you start?
2015.
Okay, so you started Man Up in 2015 and you were just one location in O'Fallon till a year and a half ago? And went to 6 locations after it just, you know what I mean? You put it out there, got everything ready, kind of got to a point where it was so big that it needed to expand. And then
we wanted to refine that process. We wanted to have it dialed in. I didn't want to throw out something like everybody else and be like everybody else and just half-ass the company and put it out there just to get it out there. So we wanted to make sure that we had everything dialed in. We had all the right, and again, as you know, we literally continually to evolve our treatment programs and continue our additions of different processes. You know, we talked about different hormones, and like a gentleman, if you picture a bucket, and your bucket has the testosterone bucket or hormone bucket, and for men, there's things we don't know what they're going to do with this testosterone. And so you can have, I would like to say, holes in a bucket that things can leak out of. DHT is one of them where you can start losing hair, right? Mm-hmm. Prolactin is another one. People talked about, you know, different like fat tissue formation in the chest, those kind of things that people consider. Correct. Yep. So then we have sex binding, which we know talked about that, right? So there's sex binding, which is another tool that we use in order to treat properly. And so these are all different holes that can happen and don't happen with everybody. Mm-hmm. So, but we look at those things when we're doing labs because what will happen is they won't use the testosterone as efficient. So we plug those holes for each individual patient depending on what's going on. And we do that and dial them in. So that's again specific for every single individual patient. So we can get the optimal results with the least amount of testosterone needed to do that, right? So it's not about, hey, let's hurry up, let's get you bunks. It's like, you know, let's get your body to use it as efficiently as possible, no matter what hormone it is, and get the maximum benefit of that. Make sure we don't have any leaks in our bucket, so to speak. And that way we're able to get the optimal, that's why we're able to get ranges that somebody's been somewhere else has not been able to get to, whether it be creams, which are a mess, whether it be other sources of pellets, things of that nature. And we have even people who are afraid of injections or just not a fan of injections. We have oral products that they can take as well to, again, have the same benefit and the same results as we do through injectables as well.
Right. Yeah.
And we have had a lot of women come in that are menopausal or premenopausal, and it's kind of helped them actually get through the process of the change, changing as women. Absolutely. And that's made a huge difference with a lot of our women.
It's been a flock of people coming for that because the symptoms are so dramatic. It's a change that has to take place. We don't want to stop the change, but we can ease the symptoms through the change.
Correct.
And like you had spoke earlier about birth control, and we are seeing, I don't know that I've seen anybody that was progesterone dominant. They're almost all massively estrogen dominant. Yep. And so that creates a problem that if you balance that out, kind of eases some of that, and the testosterone as well. You know, we've had some that are in menopause, their testosterone levels are too low, and once you get that kind of ironed out, they don't have the hot flashes, they don't have the sweats. It's just easier for them because they have to go through the transition. It just is what it is.
And the libido changes, energy changes.
Right.
You know, like it's funny, I had a wife of a husband that came in to see me, and she's, You know, she's like, I just want you to do whatever you did to my husband because he's like an Energizer Bunny now, and I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
And so I gave her a hard time. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So you made him the guinea pig to see that we could do it for
See that
him
quite
first.
often. Yeah.
And now she's back in, right? So
Yeah.
so she has lupus on top of it. So she says, well, I'll be really frank. She goes, I was very nervous about coming in and doing anything that might affect the lupus because of all the things that can happen with that and inflammation through the body and all that. So we did her 2-month check-in, has all the same energy changes, has a significant less pain. She says, and she's not a heavy lady, but she has swelling in her hands. First time she's seen her knuckles in a decade.
Wow.
So she can literally see her knuckles from a reduction of swelling in the body and her energy, able to work out into the gym and still have less pain than she's had. And she said, I can't remember when. So some of these things for people that they don't understand, hey, like lupus, you know, this can be a game changer for them.
Yeah.
And some of the products that we use for body inflammation, like BPC 157,
BPC 157,
is a
yeah.
game changer all around for just inflammation health, heart health. And so there's so many different peptides and things that are available on the market that people are not aware of. And that's where they get excited about being able to introduce people to this and have, you know, people with rheumatoid arthritis and things of that nature. This can be a game changer for those and guys who are construction their whole life, you know, back to being able to get down on their knees and move around again. And they just can't believe it. It's just, you know, people don't understand that a lot of the soreness comes from that imbalance that created from hormones, right? So as we put that back into play, that muscle soreness and activity, because that's a resistance that people have. They go to the gym, they're sore, they're hurting, they can't work out for another 45 days. And when you get on hormones, you get them balanced out, that pain goes away. You don't have that pain anymore. I'm 51 and I work out 7 days a week.
Right.
I don't have pains anywhere.
Right. I don't have joint pain. My recovery, I will feel soreness in whatever muscle group I was working. Just a little slight soreness through the end of that day, but the next morning it was like I never even worked out. Whereas, like you said, you do a leg day or a chest day, I couldn't touch anything for 3 or 4 days. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, everything just, it recovers. You give yourself, and what's crazy about that is then you feel like you could go harder, but recovery is also important. So you do have to give yourself some recovery time. So I've seen bigger gains when I just give myself that voluntary recovery, make sure I'm eating correctly, and you know, give myself a day off here and every now and again, or maybe sometimes 2 days, and then I can hit it that much harder the next time. But I think it's just understanding the landscape of how all this helps in your life to make you a better person all the way around. Like all the mental benefits, physical benefits, relationship benefits, everything about it. And that how Man Up is doing it, Man Up, Woman Up is doing it so much better than everybody else in the industry is, and that people really should reach out to us. You have locations in O'Fallon, St. Peter's, Ellisville, Arnold, Fenton, and Washington, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, and you can find you online at your main one is
Facebook, and then manup-testosterone.com.
Okay.
Just look up Man Up, you'll find us. We're everywhere.
Yeah, you're going to find all the locations. You're going to pop
find
up
it real easily. Yeah, we're very, very visible.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate
bet.
you coming on today.
You bet.
Thank you.